Hey, what up, Chris? Adjust a little bit here. Get this to work. And bring up properties. There we go. Let's just work on this dealio here for a little bit. I probably have to put away some of these colors are just getting a little out there. Black, purple, blue, and then my two grays. And where is the two grays? There's another one in here. There you are, buddy. Grab those. Am I missing something? Oh yeah, these two. Alright. Everything else can get off the table. Maybe this one. All right. Where did I put? Where? Gosh darn it! Where did I put my? There it is. All right. All right. So let's just start. Hey, what's up, Luke? Thanks, Luke. Really appreciate it. Hey, what's up, Cup? Armando, Chris. Beige and pink. Beige. Do you have any tips for people like me learning how to do stuff? Well, uh, huh. Tip. I've been thinking a lot about like how do I help people with this? Because color pencils, like, it's legitimately maybe one of the only things I've never, ever once had a lesson on, or I've been coloring with color pencil like this since high school. So, like, the way I think about it is I'm not really coloring so much as I'm just drawing color around shapes and then adding little bits to kind of glaze. Like, watercolor helps. Like, it's a semi-transparent, semi-opaque medium. So, like, really understanding color and how color works. Like, how can you get greens from yellow and blue, right? Like, if I want a dark, like in here, if I want a darker green, that isn't green, that's turquoise, right? So, like, that helps. Having a sense of three-dimensionalness, so you can kind of go over shapes and try to render them helps. Um, Learning how to press really lightly, not going in here and like noodling, like learning how to hold a pencil back here to get things super light helps. Doing a lot with very little helps. So like if you only have access to four colors, then do things in four colors. Really, like with anything in art, like I think the trick is for me, I try to create a sense of fun or excitement, you know, and like trying to find a way to transfer that. It's very zen, right? Like trying a way to transfer that into your art. Um, Takes time. and I would start small. Like, I won't lie, man. Like, a lot of these techniques I'm doing now, I learned in coloring books. You know, because I had an eye for, I wanted the characters to glow. So I would add some yellow, but yellow wasn't enough, and so then what's the next color on the spectrum? Orange. So I would add orange and then push. Um, the color pencil, like, you gotta have patience too, you know? And quite frankly, it's not nearly as long as painting with like oils or something. But, and I don't go for smooth, really smooth blending. It's a lot of little lines. A lot of little lines that create this like texture buildup. So a lot of the times, whenever I'm practicing, trying to figure out like maybe I haven't been warmed up in a while. Like this was a couple. This was earlier last year. Like last year, I did a test. I did these small little tests. You know, these small little bits, just practicing with like the pencils. Like, how do I want to? Oh, I want to get like this was one of the first ones I did on a shitty little sketch cover. And so like just learning to manipulate that stuff around. And then also, don't worry about like maybe color copies of your art, you know? So you don't have to worry about messing something up. Taking the fear away, you know? Once the fear is gone of like making a mistake, you know. I always try to remind myself, worst comes to worst, I can always just start over. Doing this stuff, like putting these lines over and over and over, is really like the reward. It's training your mind to think that like doing this, like laying these little lines in, getting to see these little strokes of color, this is the part that I get into, not the finished product. So I'm not in a hurry to like, oh my god, I gotta get it done so I can see what it looks like. It's like these little like strokes that build up, these little pops of color. You gotta become like really fascinated with it. It's a form of madness. You gotta allow yourself to be a little nuts in that regard. But in terms of just raw technique, one second. You know, understanding three-dimensional objects and then learning, you know, basic color theory. And you're only going to learn by doing, taking swatches. Render something all in red. And then how do I make it darker without using black? Maybe you make it darker before. In terms of like, Armando brings up an interesting point, like these stroke lines, keeping lines straight. There's a technique you can learn called ghosting where you draw two dots. You draw two dots and you keep them an inch apart. And you take a pencil, right, like this, and you go like this, here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. You kind of ghost it, and then you just look where you want the pencil to go. And then what you do is you make it a little bit bigger. And what you're going to do is train your forearm to move after a while. And after, you know, months, you go. And what you kind of want to do first is ghost it a couple times. And then you can make it longer. And then eventually, you know, you get to the point where you can go way out here. And you just want it to look where you want the line to go. and it builds confidence. And it trains your arm to go where your eye looks, right? Not really concerned right now about making the straightest of lines. I'm just trying to get my arm to go where the dot is in one shot. So I did that every day for 4 or 5 years while I was in college, when they would be talking. Anytime they would be doing a general ed class, math, anything. That's all I did. On my lunch breaks, at work. And so that built a tremendous amount of line confidence. And that wherever I look, my hand's going to go more or less, you know? Yeah, but you'll learn working with limited colors that the more colors you, in real life, here's the difference. The more colors you add in a digital sphere, you know, the more intense the color gets. But in the real world, the more colors you add, especially transparent or semi-transparent, the more semi-transparent color you add in the real world, it just turns to shit brown. Everything turns to brown. So you have to learn to work with as many of the pure colors as you can, or really build up transparencies until you get to the color you want. And you're not going to, there's no fucking tutorial on YouTube that's going to instill that into your brain. It's not like the Matrix. You don't get to just know Kung Fu, you know? Am I still trying those routines to the day? Yeah, just when I'm doing this art. Every time you see me draw, like I'm constantly, when people go, hey, how do you keep your lines so stable in Photoshop? Because I'm doing that. Do I practice a lot with the dots? Not much anymore, but sometimes, maybe if I'm at the DMV, you know. But I do it here all the time. And if I miss my mark, then I'm like, huh, then I'll do it again, then I'll do it again, then I'll do it again, then I'll do it again. Let's get this. But I did it obsessively for 4 or 5 years straight, you know, so it's like, it's, my mind is trained. I apply the technique almost daily when I draw, so it's kind of irrelevant at this point. But you're not going to learn that technique through drawing complicated objects. You have to learn it through doing it. It's like cutting an onion, you know? It's no different than learning basic. People spend 2 years just cutting, a year just cutting onions, a year cutting carrots, a year cutting, you know, when they're learning how to prep food. It's the same basic idea. Yeah. Brush pens are the one thing I don't fully. I have more of a mechanical mind in that sense, so I see contour lines and I add shades. I don't like to do brush strokes like thick to thin in one shot. I don't really work that way. Then you got to figure out how your mind works. Yeah, the dot thing, and the cool thing about the dot thing, you can do it anywhere, you know? You can do it anywhere, and if you think you got it figured out in a few months, you don't. It takes years. It took me years, unless you're a genius artist. And it's one of those things, like a lot of artists, even now that I follow on Instagram, when I'm probably, man, I've been really working, how do I improve myself? I'm like, well, do the dot technique first off. Because I see when they draw, sometimes they're not really drawing from a place of like they kind of don't really have control over what they're doing. It's hard to describe. You can see their anxiety when they put a pencil to paper. Hard to describe. No. No, guys, I haven't done much of anything. I've been fixing my kitchen in my free time. We got some issues around here that happened. I am making time to see Ant-Man today, though. So what I'm doing now in watercolor is known as glazing, where you take a lighter color and put it over and do a very light wash of color to tint. And this is how I can get some of these more teal greens without trying to find a pencil that's the perfect teal green. And then I can come in these little white areas and very lightly just push it. You can tint. Then you can come with an even lighter color, like this one. And it's a little hard for this camera to pick up some of the subtleties of this, but you'll see on the high-res photos, you know, the color's more pronounced. There's more texture than these cameras can only pick up so much, you know. They're webcams, you know. I'm going to do a little burnishing along this outline. Not much, just a little. You don't want to kill your knuckles. Later, Armando. Prints will. Yeah, this is a commission, so it's sold, but there will be prints. And if you don't want to get a print, this artwork will be in the next issue of Megavisions. You can get that on their Patreon. It's not a monthly Patreon, it's a per issue Patreon. So you pay when the issue's ready to ship. Otherwise, I will have more high-res, bigger prints. The full print set will be on my store. I got to put up pre-orders this week because it's going to take a little bit. I got to get some in here to make it more cost effective. I got to cost it out. It's going to be a 3-piece set, so. Not quite what I'm looking for. Yeah, like I said. Better to buy stuff that means something to you than stupid shit. I mean, there was a transition I made around the late 90s where, I bought a game maybe twice a year, but I spent my time and money on things that I could look at and study and help me. um, like when Mononoke came out on DVD, I just studied Mononoke for years. I'd freeze frame, you know, teaching myself, like, how the hell do you figure this shot out, figure that shot out, draw this, paint that, learn perspective, learn construction, move a character in three-dimensional space. Now with the way the internet is now, like, it's crazy. There's so much to learn. It's almost somewhat more difficult in that where do you start, right? There's so much information. Then you're like, what speaks to me? What do I want to learn? How do I learn? Is a 2-hour tutorial going to help me? Or is a really well-developed piece that is already accomplishing what I'm trying to do, will that help me? What is it? There's never an easy answer to this. It comes through experimentation, figuring out like how your mind works, what you're receptive to. But it never hurts to actually understand what it is you're doing. What it is you're trying to do. What's my streaming setup now? Well, this is pretty simple. So I'm using OBS Classic to do the actual streaming, which is free. And this camera is a Logitech, I don't know, W930, 930. And I got it on a desk lamp arm, just a black desk lamp arm. And I got one of those mini shelves I've clamped to the wall. And the desk lamp arm is clamped to it sideways. So the camera faces closer. So I can lower the camera to get closer to the texture without using zoom, which is what I used to do. And zoom, you just can't see as much with zoom. There's only so much you can see. And OBS allows me to stream my desktop or, for my camera. And I used to use Logitech's I used to use Logitech's webcam settings, but it's really sucks. But when you're in OBS and you set up a camera, you can right click and go to configure and use OBS's controls from there, and they're way better. There's an OBS Studio. I don't like it as much. I use the older one, but that's just my personal preference. So some people like the newer one more. What kind of pencils do I use? These are Polychromos, Faber-Castell. I use a couple Prismacolors, but the Prismacolors are wax-based. These are oil-based, so they have a they just blend. They're very smooth. You don't have to use a ton of them to achieve what you're trying to achieve. They don't build up a bunch of gunk. But some colors they just don't have. There's a very limited amount of colors. So I have like this, I have these lighter colors. So a lot of these lighter colors I can only get in Prismacolor, but it's very few. Crayola works, that's how I learned. You can do a lot. Just use light amount of pressure. You want to use the least amount of pressure and build up. Don't just sit down and do like, you know, that's the worst thing you could do. Pretty certain if I sat down, did Crayola, I can knock out some stuff. Would it be have all this fluctuation of color? Probably not, but I can. It's not the tools, man. I'm telling you, like the tools just make things easier. You know, they speed up time. But like this black ink you see here that's just ballpoint pen, standard zebra. You know. So I come in these little cracks in the color where there's white paper and take this light foam green and just kind of like, I'm not smudging it, I'm not burnishing, I'm just going into these little like lighter areas and throwing in little pops of color. Well, you can always go darker. The thing to remember with transparent and semi-transparent media is that you can go darker. And you can create bright colors by using contrast. So the clouds will look white because they're white. And put next to a blue, they'll look whiter. So you can use lots of little different techniques. In this case, I'm keeping the background the color it is, so helps to keep that a part of the piece in general. But you use a lot of these other colors to help create little pockets of saturation. It's very colorful. I don't know, man. It makes sense to me. I'm not following a tutorial, right? Like I'm just like, well, I think this will work. Hopefully it works. Yeah, that's basically it. Don't know. I don't know if Sego run out ideas. Depends if that's what they're going for. Sometimes people aren't going for new ideas. I don't think Pac-Man works in an open world exploration game. Kind of defeats the point of Pac-Man. And characters have limits, man. I like Sonic Spinball, but I don't think Mario as a pinball game would be that interesting. Mario was in a pinball game once. It wasn't that interesting. Am I going to draw Super Sonic? No, this piece is just 3 characters. It's Tails, Knuckles, and Sonic. That's all I got planned right now. It's just a commission. That's because I traced right over a Sega logo. When it comes to logos, man, I don't redraw them. So I just took the Sega logo and outlined it in Photoshop and printed it out. I ended up spending more time trying to draw the letter E perfectly than drawing the character. Sorry, my wife had a question. Was it hard learning what colors to use? Hard. For this piece? Not really. No, I'll be honest, guys. Like, really, I seem to be a little lucky in this regard. That when it comes to color pencil, it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be that difficult. I mean, sometimes I do a little practice just to see how the colors will work out. Like, uh, see, I'll do a little test sheet and try a few things just to see, oh, this or that. But it's very, very minimal. Like, But you'll find as you move along in life that there's some things that you get, quote unquote, that make more sense to you. Drawing takes a lot of effort. Painting takes a lot of effort. Writing takes a tremendous amount of effort for me. Coloring with color pencils takes little to no effort. It takes time, but for me, it's like, oh no, this is fun. This goes here, and that'll go there. Pretty certain I can do this with that. Which is one of the reasons why I'm doing it now, because I gave up I stopped using color pencils for almost 20 years. Because I did this piece around 1999, 2000 that just killed my knuckles. And I just, for some reason, remember going, oh, I really killed myself on that piece. I don't want to ever do color pencil again. But by the time I came back to it, and really came back to just, I was trying to find ways to blend the Copics. I was doing a lot of Copic work, so I was trying to find ways to blend Copic colors without using a blender. And, plus you get that Copic marker texture, and I was trying to smooth it out. And so I got color pencils to help ease that. And I was finding I was just doing more and more color pencil work. And at some point, I'm like, I'm really tired of these Copics. With sketch covers too. Like, I just was like, the color pencil looks better. I like the little pencil textures. I like that it still looks like a drawing. I like that since everyone has used a color pencil at some point, they know how hard it is to get results out of them. So I like that. Doesn't look like Photoshop. And one of my favorite artists of all time is Drew Struzan. His work has an airbrush base. I mean, it's pencil and shading, a little bit of airbrush, and a lot of color pencil. It's not painting. And I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense to me. So probably should have been sticking with that for the longest time. So here we are, I can't do as many, but I can charge a little more. And, you guys are all here because of it, right? Like, so it looks cool. So everyone wins. And I'll be honest, they're more cost effective. As an early artist. No. Not with color pencil or crayon, because the one thing I remember as a kid, the one thing I always got was coloring. Like I knew, okay, like when I did color pencil, when I did a coloring book, I knew the grass was going to be a certain green, and then I was going to use yellows to create a bright center, and then I was going to outline with a little bit of yellow and a little bit of green to create like that glow effect. I mean that's not like the seventh grade or eighth grade. That's kindergarten. Probably should have been a painter. Um, I see words in color. So like when you say the word, like your name, Luke, I see pink, gray, red, green, pink, gray, red, green, brown, yellow, green. That's how I see your name. So I'm told it's something called synesthesia or something. Like you see the world in color. So value-based drawings always threw me for a loop because I don't see the world in values and black and white shadows. But I also had this experience, for good or for bad, when I went to Comic Con in 1992, started going to San Diego Comic Con around 92. Um, you'd see things where artists would hide their mistakes in their art with cross-hatching or in coloring. And so it was like, I kind of took it maybe a little too far, where I was like, oh, people are going to hide their mistakes with the colors. So I got to learn to draw 100% three-dimensional before I can start coloring work. And probably wasn't the best idea for me, you know. But I never really had a mentor. I'd watch these things, and I'd see this advice, and then, you interpret things in your own way, and then probably probably shouldn't have done that. there's some merit to it. There's people who definitely start shading, trying to create their flat art into three-dimensional art with shading. So that I get. But I probably should have been painting. But here we are. Which is why it's been important for me to find a way to be able to do my color roughies as background art for comics. You know, and so I've created some texture sets that allow me to take really rough art, drop it in there, and it drops old textures over it, so I can just spend my time drawing the characters, and I can do my loose colored backgrounds and stuff. Look, anything, when it comes to this, you can learn, but you just got to give yourself time. I was not a great illustrator. I'm not a great illustrator now, but I couldn't draw worth a shit, for the longest fucking time. So that took time, you know. I could draw better than my friends, but that didn't mean anything to me, you know. Grapheme synesthesia. I don't know what that means. Is that what it's called? I'm not saying I've been diagnosed, but I'm saying it makes a lot of fucking sense. Because it's how I've always seen things. Yeah, it sounds like. Oh well. They say it benefits musicians more than artists, so. I wanted to make music when I was younger. My half brother's a musician. But my parents didn't want to spend. My parents didn't like spending money on me. So music costs money. So they gave me crayons. Close enough, right? We got another hour here. So now I can burnish a little bit because I really want to push some of this yellow around here. You just gotta be careful you don't knock your fucking knuckles out. It's not good. I should have gone to a fine art school. But we're way past that option at this point, so after the 71 fucking $1,000 I spent on my student loans, I just can't justify spending one dime on art training. So everything else I gotta teach myself from here on out. That's how it works. Yeah, the X-Men guy. Well, when they diagnose you with things, they try to give you medication to solve it. I don't want to solve it, you know? I'm fine with it. See if I can put a little bit more of that in there, and then I will go and work on some of these checkers, which are not nearly as fun. Very lightly. Remember, if you want to press lightly, just hold more towards the back of the pencil. See if I can get rid of that. It is advised for people it's advised for people to develop it? No, it's not gonna go away. Yeah, but I'm not doing the whole piece. See, I added these white clouds specifically. But yeah, I definitely shrugged that off at the time, and I'm shrugging it off again, but the guy that really wanted this is a big fan, and he ponied up a lot of cash. See, with a lot of cash, all things are possible. I don't know how you develop it intentionally. But look, it is possible to learn it, right? So, there you go. I'll show you guys something. This is not good. This is not good, but it's super early, just super practice pieces, and I got a ways to go with figuring out how I want to do it, right? But I've been working on painting on wood. So this is without any gesso. I just wanted to see how it would bleed out on the wood panels. So you can see a bunch of wood practices. I always just paint angry Hulk faces because the greens are easier. So I got a ways to go, but I love the fucking wood look with my colors. So that'll be coming soon. Wood. Painting on wood. But I bought a bunch of, I got some Liquitex clear gesso, and I got some other stuff, some iridescent gold watercolor ground to go over that. So I can put things in coffee shops and shit like that, right? I can be that guy who puts stuff in coffee shops. You know, the real artists. Where the real artists go. Not us fake ones on the internet. Put a piece in a coffee shop. Oh, the dream. All right. 1 second. The mic goes out, folks. I have to use it. Sometimes I have to clear my throat, or my wife has a question or something. Where is the other fucking... I'm missing a color. Where'd it go? That did your color go? Where did it? There. Oh, that's not it. That's it right there. Okay. All right. So I need to start with. The basic lines are print out and all the red shade is real. I'm not drawing it twice. So I drew it digitally and then I printed it out and then I did all the shading with red pencil on the board. So see? And then I did all the shading by hand. I've drawn it 3 times. If this were a painting, I'd have to redraw it. I'd have to do the projection and then take my drawing and so forth and so forth. Later. If it were a sketch cover, I'd have to redraw, project on there and redraw it. But I wouldn't be doing any of this fucking shit. Any of this background nonsense on a sketch cover. No effing way. No. I only got time for another 40 minutes. So I'm not even going to be able to finish this today. I'll be finishing this up tomorrow and then I'll start Knuckles on Monday. So I take Fridays aren't full days for me. Fridays are half days, and every other Friday is a full day off. So if I don't feel like working, I don't work. If I feel like working, then I work. But that's the only way I can get everything done as if I stop doing things every now and then. Wednesday was a holiday, which, you know, I forgot. But Rob, you served in the army. It's not a military holiday. It's an American holiday. I always had to work 4th of July. So, I always had guard duty in the army, and then working for my dad in security. It was a working day. This background's going to be a little tedious. This is why I don't like doing backgrounds. Make more sense with watercolor where you can just like let stuff blend into one another, but oh well. What blues I'm using? Not right now, man. These all have weird codes, dude. The Faber-Castells. It's cobalt turquoise and it's cobalt turquoise. And then there's, yeah, I'll have to write it all out, man. I'm not. I could hold up the blues. Looks like this. Looks like this. And sometimes I throw in these greens, right? Sorry. And sometimes this one. I think it's these. I don't think it's important to find out like exactly what colors, man. Like to me, like that's probably something I should put together for a tutorial or something. But I can hand you the thing is, right? If I handed you the exact same colors, would you achieve a similar result? And it's questionable. To some extent, probably. You know? It's probably why my YouTube channel doesn't take off. We don't really instill a sense of accomplishment here. I'll have to make a whole. You know what I'll do? Next week, when the Sonic piece is done, next Friday, I could do a podcast with Brandon where we can just go over the colors. How about that? Because right now, man, it's just gonna. It's not good. It's not good right now. I just want to focus on getting this done. No, it's all right. It's a legitimate question. It's just I'll get sidetracked. All I did was buy the set that had like all the Polychromos, and then I'm figuring out which ones I need. There's a lot of duplicate colors that you don't need. You know, I tried limiting it to 64. It's probably closer to maybe 84 colors I can run through here and there, you know. But I'm always like I don't know, I just don't even know how relevant most of it is. Like it's kind of like a question of what are you trying to do? Like pick one character to work on and then what colors do you need? And if you don't have the colors you need, can you create a lighting scheme? Like if you had Cyclops and I had blue, yellow, and green and no red, you know, well then his blast will have to be white, you know? And maybe I could do a monochromatic version of the color scheme with a blue and green lighting scheme that I use blue and lime greens. Maybe I give him a lime green blast. Like it's like maybe I can put it on a darker background. Like there's different ways to apply colors to achieve. The way I think about it, man, is not so much the specific colors as the emotion, the feeling you want to convey when you're creating art. The feeling is more important than the specifics. So sometimes people go, why are the boots this color, not that color? Well, I wanted the feeling of this, you know. Um, Same in stories. Plot is about getting from here to there, and story is the emotion. So I'm less interested in like, you know, plot where it's like, oh, did they gotta get the gems to get the thing? I care about the experiences. Like it's um it's a different way of thinking. Same with t-shirt art. Like when you walk into a store to look at, you maybe want to get a shirt. It's really not what's on the shirt. It's the emotion it's conveying. Sometimes it's humor, sometimes it's aggressiveness, sometimes it's, you know, just looking nice, you know, happiness. Sometimes it's sadness. It's a difficult concept to teach in the West, right? Because we get told that your emotions suck, have no emotions. So, yeah, it's complicated. Uh, what was I doing right there? So could I go through and render out every little cube here 100% three-dimensionally? Yeah, I could spend 6 months working on this piece. But the focus is sonic, you know, creating a sense of fun. So over-rendering will kind of get in the way. You ever seen someone recreate a photo from like, say Wonder Woman, right? Gal Gadot. They take a Wonder Woman photo and they redraw her, and she's shaded 100% perfectly, but she looks fucking weird. You know, too much technical, too much technical, and not enough emotion. Probably could use a simpler approach to create a stronger emotional reaction. Learn that doing t-shirts. You could make something look 100% spot on, but no one will buy it. You could put these giant 100% renders of Spider-Man on a t-shirt, but no one will buy it. They're going to buy this one color, super simple version, you know, and you're like, well, what the fuck? But this has all the details. Yeah, but people don't, doesn't work that way. It's fickle. time is it? Close. All right, everybody. So that's about 2 hours. So we got the sky and most of this done. I'll be able to wrap up this bottom part and this cable up here tomorrow. And then Monday, the surfboard I'll probably save to the end because I'm uncertain how I want to do some of that stuff. Monday I will start. No, maybe I'll be able to get the surfboard done tomorrow. I think all I want to do is a red stripe down the center. And then I gotta look at the fucking logo. So, I don't know. I don't have it all worked out. So. We got it all going. All right, everybody. Be back on tomorrow. I'm gonna go see Ant-Man. Hey, also more Darksiders this week. Big Darksiders push this week to get that done. So if you're interested in that, I will be drawing that as well starting Monday. So all right, everybody. Talk later. Hey, if you have no money, you can't buy nothing. You know what you can do for free? You can like and leave a comment below. How about that? That actually really helps YouTube, and it puts little YouTube dollars in my pocket. You know, a couple $100 a year, folks. Makes a difference. Really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Peace. Sketchcraft.com. This is where I sell stuff. There's like 2 things left. That's it. That's all I'm going to have until it's time to pre-order this Sonic piece. And then I'm going to have the Sonic piece in there. That's my store. Shopsketchcraft.com. That's where I put stuff. Peace.